I remember that morning as if it were etched into the inside of my eyelids. Bright, cold, too festive for what was about to happen. My daughter, Liana, only 7, stood before a table full of adults clinking glasses and laughing loud enough to drown out a child's voice. She wore the gold dress she had begged me to buy, its sparkles catching every glint of light like they were trying to make her visible. But to most people in that room, she never truly was. She gripped a small red box in her hands. Her fingers trembled, but her eyes were steady, far steadier than any 7-year-old should be. And when she stepped forward, raising that box toward her grandmother, my husband's mother, Eleanor, the room shifted. Something in the air tightened. "Grandma," she said, her voice clear and unshaken. "Dad told me to give this to you if you ever ignored me again." Silence fell like a dropped curtain. Forks froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the Christmas music still playing from the corner speaker seemed to shrink. Eleanor looked up with a strained, polite laugh, as though this were all some silly misunderstanding. But I knew better. I had known for years, and when she opened that box, her scream tore through the room like glass shattering. But that moment, that piercing eruption, was only the ending of a story that began long before. And if I'm going to tell it, I need to start from where I once believed I had married into a warm, tightly bonded family. When I married Marcus, I thought his family was everything mine hadn't been: big, noisy, tightly woven by traditions and loyalty. His mother, Eleanor, was the conductor of all their gatherings. Strong-willed, commanding, opinionated. I admired her at first. I wanted desperately to be welcomed, to be part of something that felt bigger than myself. For a while, she played the part well: smiles, polite compliments, invitations. But slowly, almost invisibly at first, she began shutting me out. A missing group text here, a subtle remark there. A gentle jab passed off as a joke. I tried to convince myself it didn't matter. I tried harder to belong. Then came Liana. She was 2 when Marcus entered our lives. He loved her immediately, steadily, instinctively, without hesitation. When we married, he adopted her fully. We never used the word step. She was his daughter in every meaning of the word, but Eleanor never embraced that truth. She treated Liana like an afterthought, a visitor to the family photo. On holidays, the other grandkids, Blake and Emily, were showered with thoughtful gifts, affectionate teasing, long hugs. Liana received dollar store trinkets, mismatched books, sometimes nothing more than a token gesture. And she noticed. Children always notice. Point 1 Thanksgiving. Every grandchild received a personalized plate with their name painted in gold. Liana's seat had a chipped spare from a cabinet. That night, she whispered to me, "Maybe Granny thinks I don't live here." My heart cracked. Marcus heard it too, but he didn't confront his mother. Not then. By the time Christmas rolled around, the hurt had become a pattern. I kept telling myself that staying quiet was better for the family, that traditions mattered more than small wounds, that Liana would understand someday. But in reality, I was teaching her something I never meant to teach, that she should accept being treated as less. The shift happened that Christmas Eve, when Eleanor handed Emily a brand new tablet with a dramatic flourish, gifted Blake a thick envelope filled with cash, and then, almost as an afterthought, passed Liana a lavender candle with the words, "I didn't want you to feel completely left out." A candle, for a child, and the tag attached read, "To Marcus's girl, not granddaughter." Not even her name, just an accessory to her father. I looked at Marcus. His jaw was clenched. His eyes were unreadable. And I remembered then. Months ago, he had told Liana she could give Eleanor a certain box if she ever made her feel unwanted again. I didn't know what was in it then. I only knew Marcus had grown quiet and cold in the days following a particularly painful birthday party long before. That night, in the car, Liana asked in a small voice, "Is Grandma angry at me?" Before I could answer, Marcus said, "No, sweetheart. She just forgot something important." He glanced at her through the rearview mirror. And I think she's about to remember. At home, Liana made her decision. Tomorrow was brunch at Eleanor's. Tomorrow she would bring the box. There was no dramatic emotion in her voice, only calm certainty. A kind of dignity a child shouldn't have to learn so young. Later that evening, I finally asked Marcus what he had put inside. He told me about the day he had watched Liana being brushed aside during Blake's birthday, how she'd asked him quietly if she counted as anyone's cousin. How he'd gone home and printed the adoption papers again, wrote a letter, and tucked it all inside a box. Not for revenge, not for spectacle, but to give our daughter something solid to hold on to. Proof that she belonged. The next morning, Liana dressed with intentional care, gold dress, carefully redone curls, glittery headband. The same one she wore the day the judge signed the papers making her officially ours when we arrived at Eleanor's house. Everything looked as perfect as ever, gleaming ornaments, polished silver, spotless tablecloth. But the perfection felt brittle, like it might crack if anyone breathed too deeply. During brunch, Eleanor praised Emily's dress again and again. She didn't look at Liana twice, and then Liana stood. She walked to the head of the table, placed the red box in front of Eleanor, and with a steady voice said, "Dad told me to give this to you if you ever ignored me again." What followed is something I will never forget. Inside the box was a framed photo, Marcus holding Liana the day she turned 2. Frosting smeared on her cheeks as she hugged him. Beneath it lay the adoption papers. And beneath those, the letter, "Mom, if you're reading this, it means you hurt my daughter again. She is mine by love, by law, and by choice. If you cannot love her the way you claim to love me, then you do not love me. And you will not be welcome in our lives anymore." Eleanor's face collapsed as she read. Then came the scream. Raw, panicked, ugly. She accused me of turning Marcus against her, but Marcus stood and said, "You did this. Not her. Not us. You." And that was it. We walked out, our daughter between us, and never went back. There were no dramatic confrontations afterward, no apologies, no reconciliation. Just silence. And strangely, relief. Liana bloomed in that silence. She stopped watching for validation that never came. Stopped shrinking in rooms where she deserved space. She wore a silver bracelet Emily later mailed her, bought with her allowance, with a note that said, "You're my cousin forever." Marcus changed too. I saw pride settle into him like a slow exhale. For years he tried to bridge an impossible gap between the woman who raised him and the daughter who trusted him. That day, he finally chose with clarity that we began building new traditions, small, quiet, real ones. Liana helped us bake cookies for neighbors, built pillow forts, danced in pajamas. No grand gestures. Just a home where she belonged without condition. I kept the red box. It sits in a drawer beside her baby's shoes. Not as a reminder of pain, but of strength. The strength of a child who refused to stay invisible. Family, I learned, isn't who claims you when the room is watching. It's who stands beside you when it's hard. Who sees you when others look past you. And my daughter taught me that truth long before I was brave enough to name it.